Thursday, May 18th, 2005, and this is the beginning of an interview with Mrs. Ruth Richardson at the Station Museum in Portage, Pennsylvania, where she is active in the Historical Society. My name is Whitney Myers, and I will be an interviewer.
My name is Matt Martella, and I will be an interviewer.
My name is Ray George, and I will also be an interviewer.
Mrs. Richardson will talk to us about her work in the factory during the war. Mrs. Richardson, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised here in Portage.
How old were you at the beginning of World War II?
14.
14? At the time of the war, were you married or single?
I was in high school.
If single, what was your boyfriend's name and wartime occupation?
I didn't have a boyfriend.
What were your remembrances of the attack on Pearl Harbor?
At first it was hard to believe. I had an uncle in the service over in Pearl Harbor. And it was hard to believe that anything like that, could come about. Because I think this was our first experience with any, terroristic whatever. But it was hard to believe. And of course then they started the draft and the 18-year-olds had to go.
Was your uncle okay?
No, my uncle survived, yes.
Did you work during the war? Or
No, I was still in high school. I worked in Century Ribbon Mills after I graduated. 3 days after graduation, I started in there.
Oh, okay.
And we were making thread for parachute material.
Oh, okay.
So it was very, very important that we really were. I worked on what they called 5Bs. It put a twist in the thread. And there were special knots. Now, some of the thread was sort of elastic, and you had to get rid of all that to make sure that the knots hold so that the material would be perfect.
Was it a hard job? Was it okay?
Once you got onto it, it was fine. I mean, we realized the seriousness of this war.
Yeah.
Because everybody pitched in. And I think that well, they said once you learned your job, that was it, because the machine did the spinning, so we didn't have to worry
So
about
there wasn't
that.
a lot of training, or was
Well, a couple weeks training before we started, but like I said, I started immediately after I graduated in '44.
Did you choose this job at your own free will, or were you kind of forced into working?
Well, kind of a history of it. My mother worked in the early 1900s, and my two sisters preceded me. They were working there, and I just automatically followed.
How did you feel about the war?
At first it was kind of hard to comprehend until we started losing all our young people. And you can compare it to today, when the young ones are going. But some of our high school class were 18 and they were conscripted. They landed in the service.
What were your families or friends' feelings?
About the same. This is one time when the whole country pulled together. It is amazing. I mean, you had to live through it. We were in the Depression to start with, so we were used to doing without. And everyone pulled together.
What were some of the first changes in your life after the war started?
Well, our classes got smaller, and of course we had the ration, which was a big thing. I mean, you were used to buying your sugar, the 25 pounds and so forth. Then you had to have your little rations, coupons and so forth to buy.
What social activities were you involved in at work or after work with coworkers?
Well, since I was in school at the time, we had the movies. And being young enough, we were out in the evenings. We'd cook out, well, there were cookouts, we had campfires and cooked potatoes and so forth, and but there wasn't that much extra food to be had for anything like that.
Did you or any of your friends get married during wartime?
Let's see, I can't remember. I don't think. Not in my immediate group, no.
Did you worry that America might not win the war?
A big friend?
Did you worry that we might not win the war?
That hadn't even entered our minds, no. No, I think we were more concerned with keeping it over there.
Yeah, I know how you Did you know anyone that served during the war besides your uncle?
Oh yeah, my goodness, yes. I had classmates that served in World War II, plus two brother-in-laws served in, my brother was in the Navy. Practically everyone, in fact, the only ones that remained, even my father had registered for the draft, and the only ones that remained were either too young or too old.
Did they all come back okay that you knew? Or
No, one of the classmates got killed, I think he was over there about 6 months, he got killed.
how did you get the news of the war from the first
Radio.
radio?
Radio. Everything was radio.
Did you receive any letters from anyone in the war?
Yeah, and postcards from people that in fact I have a postcard somewhere.
Were any of them censored?
Was that?
Were any of them censored, do you know?
No, my sister's mail was censored because her husband was in England in the Air Force. And of course they cut out, because then they were afraid that news would leak, you know. Loose lips sink ships was one of the sayings. In other words, if you kept it all coming, you might give something away.
Did you have a victory garden?
Yes, everybody had, most everyone had gardens.
What did you plant in it?
We planted a little bit of everything because my mother canned. Most everyone had chickens. All the food was canned for the winter. That was what kept you going.
How were you and members of your family affected by the rationing?
Well, like I said, things weren't as plentiful, but we had our gardens to rely on.
What did you guys grow in the gardens?
We had tomatoes, of course, beans, peas, corn, and all of this was to be canned in carrots, always carrots, radishes. All this was to be canned for the winter.
What was your favorite? Your favorite vegetable?
Eating a fresh cucumber off the vine.
What did you recycle during war to help the war effort?
We recycled everything. This was the beginning of the recycling. We flattened cans, we saved those. We saved grease. We saved your aluminum pans as they wore out. You donated those. Old rubber tires, anything and everything that could be recycled, yes.
Did you buy a war bond?
Yes, we had, in school we had the programs where you got little pamphlets and you bought a stamp. And each stamp amounted up, and when you got that filled, then you got a war bond.
How often did you buy them?
Well, money wasn't too plentiful. It was just a hit and miss thing.
How much did they cost?
Golly, I can't even remember. I don't remember whether they were the same as what they were, the $18.95 for a $25 war bond, but the stamps were 10 cents.
What effect did the war have on the type of food that you or your family ate during the war?
Well, since it was rationing and everything was to go, I mean, the meat you got down on. My dad was 100, unfortunately, and we had deer meat, which Mom canned, and anything that you could get. I mean, it was hard to come by. Everything was for the war effort.
Did you try spam during the war?
Yes.
What did you think of the spam?
The first I tasted spam was Mrs. Kuster had a restaurant up at the upper end of town there, and she had it in sandwiches, which she sold, and that was my first taste of the solid spam. Then they come out with that spread. It tasted good, actually.
Can you remember a favorite dish that your family ate often during the war years?
I think about my favorite was Mom's homemade vegetable soup, with all fresh vegetables and beef if you could get it.
Did your family or neighbors display flags in their windows for family
Yes.
members serving?
Yes.
What kind of flags? What did they look like?
They were flags, and there was a blue star for each member of the family. Now, I only had one brother, so of course we only had one star.
Were there different kind of flags for a family member who had died?
There were gold stars for gold star mothers, which their sons or husbands had gotten killed.
Did your family take part in the scrap jobs?
Yes.
What kind of items did?
Aluminum pots and pans, anything that we could salvage, you know. But at that time, we had to repair aluminum pots and pans. There were little discs that you bought, and you put on the inside of the pot, and on the bottom side of the pot, and you screwed it in there, and that made the pan last longer.
What do you remember about the blackout curtain? Or the air raid drills they had in school and aircraft spotters?
Yeah, we had the civil defense group out, and at that time we had a group of men in town that would go around and check to make sure that there was no light shining, you know, that you could see out your windows. Now, most everyone had what they call room darkening blinds, and they're in the same order as what's up on these windows. But then they wanted curtains so that no bit of light shone through. They even had those blinds on the passenger trains. They pulled them down so that when they came through town here, that there was no light shining through, that they couldn't tell. Yes?
Did you have air raid drills in school?
We had drills. I mean, you crawled under the desk, and that was about the extent of it.
What about the aircraft spotters?
There we had, there was a group that in the schools had kind of like clubs. And now Township, my husband, was one of them, and they had pictures and or books with the pictures of the different aircraft and so forth. And they would go down to the lower end of town and spot.
How did your clothing change? Did you have to give anything up during the war?
My mother made our clothes. So there wasn't, I mean, from the inside out, she really made them. We didn't really go through clothing the way we do now.
No. Did you have to give up nylon?
There were silk stockings then, there wasn't the nylon. There used to be kits that you bought that would, with a little hook on the end, that would help repair your nylon or your silk stockings, because they were hard to come by.
Oh, yeah.
Describe traveling during the war.
It wasn't too much travel because with the gas being rationed and tires very hard to get. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't have a car at that time, and if I'm not mistaken, you had to put your name in for special needs in order to get new tires.
To what extent was there hoarding or black market activity in your area?
None that I know of.
How did you feel when the war ended?
Happy. Everybody was coming back home.
What did you do when you heard the news?
Well, we were down in Johnstown and the fire sirens went and the church bells rang. And my mother and my two sisters and I were in the, I don't even remember why we were down there, probably shopping. And it was glorious. The people started collecting in the streets, and it was a victory, you know, very happy.
Where were you on VJ Day?
Down in Johnstown.
How did the people in your area celebrate the end of the war?
Well, I think I discovered that.
How would you describe the ways that the war changed your life and those of others?
I think it made us more conscious that there were other places in the world besides our little world here in Portage, and that there were others to contend with.
Did you keep your job after the war or start a new one?
No, I kept it.
How many years did you work there?
I worked there three years, and then I ran away and got married.
Did you have any kids?
3 children.
Is there one thought about your wartime experience that you'd like to share with future generations?
I think the war brought people together, even though, I mean, it was such tragedy going on, but it brought people together and made everyone close. And now it just seems like it's every man for himself.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add on World War II?
I don't think so. It was good time and bad time. Let's put it that way. Because there were things going on, and I liked to dance, therefore we would scrounge around and get gas rationing stamps for someone to take us. At that time, there was a Sunset Ballroom in Carrolltown, and we got to go to the big name bands. In the same way in Johnstown, the Masonic Temple, the big name bands came in. They visited the hospital, and then they would have a dance in the evening. So otherwise, I'd have never, you know, I mean, being a Depression kid, we didn't have extra money for a lot of this.
That's the end of our interview. But thank you for sharing everything that you
You're quite welcome.
remembered and for bringing all of this to share with us.
Privileged, yeah. If you have a chance, get a chance to look through it.
Yeah,
There are, this
Is
was,
this when you were a senior?
yes, that's our yearbook.
Still on the good street.
This I brought too. This was my husband's. They gave me President Roosevelt. Read the opening in there.
Was your husband in the war? Did he serve?
No, he was stateside.
Oh,
But if you notice, it has a plate on the front. They usually put them in their left side of their shirt, and that was to repel bullets, to keep them safe. Man.
See the camera? Right? Yeah.
And what about this pen? What was this pen?
That was you buy 'em, we fly 'em. The so-called box cars. even out of, this is a good book here, I bought one for the library up there.
Were you in any clubs in high school?
Yeah. Right, and I like to play basketball, drama club. I even forget, that's too long ago. That was 1944. You have to look me up.
Are there pictures in here? Or?
No, no. This was wartime. You can see what we did. Nothing like it is now.
So you participated in the intramural basketball?
Series of cartoons back in, most of these were in the paper. And this one, of course, the females. They're all yours, Uncle Sam. And then there was another one, Gilroy was there. I don't know if you've ever seen that cartoon or not. It was a face peeking over a fence and two hands. It says Gilroy was here.